It's great. I can see that little startle on my face every time at the beginning of these now, from here on out, apparently. So this is Weekday Somatics. It's Monday, I believe. So welcome. So let's get started. I have to say that so that we can get started. Otherwise, we're waiting to get started. So let's. So now we're started. We have begun. So the way really that we get started is by being present, and being present is so easy to misunderstand or to not understand. It's one of those ideas that can be sort of just a throwaway, like we just say that to give lip service to it. Maybe that's what we think, but it really, honestly, is the entirety of the whole thing. So if we throw that away, then we've thrown away the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. So let's take a moment to notice what that really means. Is it something that we can actually choose? And I propose yes, we can actually choose it. So how do we do that? So you can notice that when I give that suggestion, instruction, be present. You can notice what you do. How do you become present? And what is it that becomes present? So that's actually a more useful direction. What becomes present? So how do you become present? Maybe is you can get trapped in that. Am I present now? What about now? What about now? What about now? Am I doing it right now? What about now? Am I there yet? But what is present? What could not be present? What is it that, what are we talking about? What becomes present? Who is it that's present? If you try to figure that out, good luck with that. I don't, I've never arrived at an answer for that in the mind. I don't have reason to believe that I could, because the actual answer, what it actually points to, is not, and you've heard this before, but it's not something that can be held by the mind or grasped by the mind or understood. But that doesn't mean that it's not something that's available, because it is available, and it's available to you because it is you. So you can look to see, who is that? What am I referring to? Who is it that's present? Who could be present? Who is it that's aware? So this is our starting point. Be present. And we have all kinds of tricks we can use, like choosing a posture. And then begin to notice, how do you choose a posture? What is your criteria? How do you, there has to be a direction in some sense to choosing a posture, because you're not choosing something. So the choice is actually in opposition to something that you're not choosing. So you're eliminating certain possibilities. You're saying, should I be leaning forward? Should I be leaning backward? Should I be lying down? Should I be on my side? Should I be upright? Should I be on my head? So what is that? Just notice that. And notice that actually there's another possibility. Rather than moving away or toward anything, which is the habitual way, you can just be aware, be present. So you notice those habits, the indulgences, the habitual indulgences of moving toward or away, trying to get the right answer, trying to figure it out. And perhaps then what you notice is that there is of course, this is, the words are not it, but I'll say a kind of space in which all of the rest of it is happening. So you start to become aware of all of it. You're aware of all of the impulses toward and away from, toward and away sensation, toward and away from thought, toward and away from memory, toward and away from images. And there's a space in which that's happening, and you're aware of that space. You're aware of all that's happening in that space. And you can start to become aware of the effort that is involved in all of those habits. So start to just tune into that. You're aware of the strain, the effort, all of the trying. And you can notice that the mind, the mechanical mind, the conditioned mind, it doesn't know what to do with this, because the only way that it knows how to try and deal with those things is by way of its opposite, or its understanding of the opposite. So it tries. So it's usually just kind of has to just sort of fall back on, well, I guess I just give up. But it doesn't know how to do that either. Because giving up is just kind of like a collapse. But the prime directive is to be present, be aware, be awake. So we are not going to just collapse, because if you collapse, what happens is that there's a kind of endurance of numbness. How long can you maintain that? Not so long. Because every time you fall asleep, you eventually wake up, and when you wake up, you're more or less where you were when you fell asleep. So here we're remaining awake rather than collapsing into sleep. Well, there's a lot that can come up. Okay, so if it's comfortable for you and you haven't yet done so, close the eyes. And I'm going to describe something, and as I'm describing this, you just see that you can remain aware of this space in which all of this experience is happening. So you just notice where there is effort being made, and notice that rather than collapsing, you can soften, you can actually utilize that effort or the awareness of that effort to transform it into something that is uplifting. So that might seem strange, but just you can kind of puzzle over that as I describe something, and perhaps what I'm describing will illuminate this subject. So in the ancient Indian scriptures, the Vedas, there's these primal deities called Agni and Soma. Agni is the principle of transformation. It is like fire, or we could say it is fire. And Soma is the principle of nourishment, which is, we could say, all that has substance. And Agni and Soma are, I think we could say, somewhat analogous to the Taoist notion of the yang and yin, yang being the fire principle, yin being the manifest principle, the nourishment principle. And so these two principles, now the reason I mentioned Agni and Soma is because this is Weekday Somatics. Somatics is the direct exploration of Soma, but Soma doesn't exist independently, just like in the yin and yang symbol that you're likely familiar with. The two principles exist, they coexist together, they're inseparable. So when we are exploring somatics, we're exploring from within the principle of soma, and we're discovering how there is this complementary principle of Agni, fire transformation, that is not separate. And in fact, that in order for there to be an evolution of the soma, the body, the manifest, the nourishment, in order for that be to evolve rather than to stagnate, we have to invite this principle of Agni, which is this principle of transformation. So how is it that this works? So in order for there to be, let's say paradoxically, in order for there to be an evolution or a growth or an expansion of soma, there has to be a sacrifice of soma to the Agni. So if another symbol that may be familiar to you, somewhat related to the, somewhat similar to the yin and yang, is the symbol of the Ouroboros, which is the, and I want you to imagine this. Okay, imagine the Ouroboros, which is the serpent eating its own tail. Maybe you can superimpose those two images of the yin and yang and the Ouroboros in your mind, so you can see both of them, see how there's a similarity there, how they connect to one another. So in order for there to be an expansion or an evolution of the soma, which is our earthly human experience, our sensual experience, our experience of bodily health, of security in this world, of well-being and nourishment and function in this world, there has to be a sacrifice to the principle of Agni. You can't have one expanding without the other. Now, conversely, you can't have really the Agni principle expanding without also taking into account the Soma principle. So this is the mistake that oftentimes we try to make. We try to escape the difficulties, the struggles, the unpleasantness, the stresses of our worldly existence by escaping into that Agni principle, just this pure imagination, we could say, divorced from the material. Which doesn't work. So both of these principles have to be together. So I'll give you a third image now. So you've got two images so far, the yin and yang symbol and the Ouroboros, which is the serpent, circular serpent with the head of the serpent eating its tail. And the third image, which you could also, if you were so inclined, superimpose over the other two, is that of a spiral. And you can imagine that spiral in a in 3 dimensions, so that as it spirals up, it expands. So now become aware of your breathing. And as you become aware of the breathing, just allow yourself to be aware. Don't try and breathe. Don't try and do the breathing, because if you try to do the breathing, you'll just be overlaying your habits, your ideas, everything you've learned up to now. But here instead, we're going to actually employ uh, the Agni principle. So that is to sacrifice everything that you think you know and be willing to surrender that all. Surrender everything you think you know, all of your strategies for how to breathe, how to be successful, how to be right, how to be good, how to do it. And be willing to be like a newborn baby breathing for the first time. So drop all expectations that you are going to succeed, or that you even have the capacity to recognize at this time what successful breathing would even be. So you're actually aware now of these 2 principles, whether you know it or not, because you're aware of all of the sensation. You're aware of the experience, the direct experience of the sensual. And you are aware of this fire principle, that you can surrender, sacrifice all of your sensation too. So just allow, whether you believe this is a good sensation or a bad sensation, just be willing to surrender it to that fire principle, that principle within you of transformation. And if that's not clear, just it's that which does not know, or at least you don't know what it is. So if you don't know, you're doing it correctly. So you're sacrificing what you think you know to what you don't know. Just surrendering that and being aware of the breath. So even if the breath is awkward or not smooth, or it seems too big or too small or too this or too that, or whatever judgments you might have, you're just surrendering all of that as it's happening. And you're allowing yourself to be expanded, opened, freed. allow for this sacrifice both on the inhalation and on the exhalation. So you're allowing everything to be surrendered. That means the point at which you think, oh, I need to do something, you just surrender that. The point at which you think this feels too uncomfortable, you surrender that. The point at which you think, I give up, you surrender that. The point at which you think, I'm too frustrated, you surrender that. Whatever might arise, you just surrender that. Now, as you continue to allow yourself to breathe or be breathed in this way, you can start to notice, in case you haven't already, that all of these facets of experience come to the surface. And we differentiate between these facets of experience out of convention. We call some of them thoughts, some of them images, and some of them memories, some of them sensations. So I'll give you another image. So just have this image now. The image is that you see a lake, and the surface of the lake is even, placid, still. As far as you can see, in all directions. And you look down at the water, and the water is opaque. You can't see to the bottom of it. You have no idea how deep it is or how shallow it is. It's dark, like it's murky and muddy. And slowly you start to see something emerging from the water, and it is a flower. It's a lotus. And the lotus begins to open. And you notice the color of the lotus. And you receive the color of the lotus, that color, the frequency of that color resonates within you. You have an understanding of it. The essence of it is received by you. And then that lotus has passed its time of flowering, and all of the petals and all of the plant matter starts to rot, and then it sinks back into the water. And this happens over and over. Another one comes to the surface and it opens, and there it is, its own unique color. And you receive that color. There's a frequency there that is the essence of it that you receive. It resonates within you. There's a recognition, and then that one also goes away. And over this happens. Each color has a different frequency, so each color has a different impression. There's a different resonance within you. It's a different experience because it's a different frequency. Each one is unique. And some of those colors, some of those frequencies, some of those experiences, the vibration is such that it's a higher vibration or a lower vibration. Some of them, because of your conditioning, you naturally find more attractive, and others less so. Some you find soothing and some not so much. But you're just receiving the essence of each one without needing to do anything. You're just receiving. And you'll notice that some of these seem to provoke certain memories, certain images, certain feelings, certain sensations, certain experiences, because those are what are associated in your conditioning. And you just allow those without needing to do anything about it. You're sacrificing. See, this is all of what you had held on to, all of these baggage, all of this clutter, all of this soma that was heavy, dense. And you're allowing the sacrifice so that the essence, you receive just the essence. The essence is enough. You don't need the rest of it. Just the essence. Just that frequency. Just that frequency of that color is enough. That holds all of the essential information, all of what is actually needed, the essential knowledge, the essential lesson. And now again, you can let all of that imagery go. And again, you're aware of your breathing. And you're aware of those three images that I mentioned earlier. The yin and yang symbol, the Ouroboros, and the spiral. And become aware of your physical body, and become aware of your skin. Become aware of the skin on the front side of your body, and the skin on the back side of your body, and the skin on the left side of your body, and the skin on the right side of your body, and the skin at the top of your head, and the skin on the bottoms of your feet. And become aware of all of the skin all around your entire body, so that you're aware of that which differentiates between your inside and your outside. And feel all of that skin. Feel the skin, maybe you can start to feel it slightly tingling. And feel the inside of the body. Feel the inside of the head, and the inside of the throat, and the inside of the chest, and the inside of the arms and hands. Feel the inside of the abdomen. Feel the inside of the legs, and feel the inside of the feet. So you can be aware of the entire inside of your body. And you're aware of the skin all around your body, and you're aware of the outside. And again, become aware of your breath. And then become aware of the breath as though it's traveling through the skin. So as you inhale, you imagine or sense that the breath is traveling through the skin into the interior of your body. And then as you exhale, you imagine that the breath is traveling through the skin out to the outside of your body. And now let's consciously make a sacrifice and sacrifice our any ways in which we're holding on to any unnecessary baggage, such as self-judgment, regret, blame, just allow yourself to release that to that fire principle, just to allow that to be transformed so that you can receive the essence of whatever lesson is offered to you without needing to hold on to the old shell in which that lesson was held. And next, let's give thanks to those unseen forces and teachers that guide us, helping us to be humble, to learn, to let go. to be truly honest with ourselves. Let's acknowledge the many ways in which those teachers show up in our lives, so that rather than cursing them, we can be receptive to their wisdom and their guidance in all of the ways that they show up. And let's bless our teachers. Recognizing that they are everywhere, that every experience that we have is in fact our teachers, that every sensation we experience, every thought we experience, every reaction, every word that we hear, all of our relationships, everyone we know, all of our friends, our loved ones, and our enemies, the place where we live, this entire planet, and all beings everywhere offer blessings and give thanks for the great compassion that our teachers offer us, and let us be willing to be humble to receive the lessons. Again, become aware of your body, become aware of your scalp, your forehead, and the back of your head, and the left ear, and the right ear, and the nose, and the lips, and the chin, and the tongue, and the throat, and the neck. Be aware of your shoulders, your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms, your wrists, your hands and fingers. Be aware of the chest and upper back, the abdomen and the lower back, the buttocks, the thighs, the knees, the lower legs, the ankles, the heels, the tops of the feet, the toes, and the soles of the feet. And be aware of the entire body from head to toe. And slowly move your fingers and soften your forehead. And when you're ready, slowly open the eyes. Okay, so in just a moment, I'll end this formal exploration recording. And then for those who would like, we can stay on for the Q&A. Uh, so fire will take it all. So it's really just up to us if we're willing to let it go and receive the essence of it. You don't have to.
Come back.
But if you're finding that you're having a difficult experience, my question would be, why not? Why not let it go? Not to get rid of it, but to be willing to finally let go of the attachment to a particular form that is not needed, because all forms are temporal, if even. To be honest, I don't find that any form ever actually is. It never really comes into being. It's always in transition. So if you're finding that if you're finding it difficult, then it likely is because you have an attachment to a form that it no longer is. But there's an essence to it, and that essence you can receive. So being willing to let it go, to sacrifice that form, allows for the evolution of that soma, that nourishment. Okay, so I'll end this recording.